Good day and welcome back to Mr. Math. This will be one of the first paper discussions that we will conduct for the grade 9s. I know that the grade 9s in the school where I teach, they do write paper 1 tomorrow. So hopefully this paper will assist you. I do apologize for my voice sounding very weird, as I've not been feeling well for the couple of 2 or 3 days now. But here we are conducting the live stream. Hopefully this assists you, and then we will continue with the grade 8s, with their paper discussions for both paper 1 and 2, as well as then paper 2 for grade 9 as well. So what we're going to start with, this is a past paper that was set just after COVID-19 was stopped, or all the restrictions were taken off. So it was quite an easy set paper, but it has the framework of all the work that will be asked with regards to your exam that will follow tomorrow. I do not know when the other schools are writing their exams, but I do know that our school, the grade 9s, will be writing paper 1 tomorrow. So place this down as follows. So you'll see here for question 1, with regards to the question paper, you'll see that there is a multiple choice question. If I'm not mistaken, I'm sure that there are 10 of these multiple choice questions that is asked. So obviously I know that you'll be asked whole numbers, you'll be asked exponents, you'll be asked graphs, as well as patterns and so on. And so we will cover all of that during this live stream at this stage. Okay. So your first question here, question 1.1, states in the coordinate plane below, which is the Cartesian plane that they are talking about, which point could have coordinates -2 and -4? Now, what you should know is that your quadrants work anti-clockwise. So quadrant 1 will be here, quadrant 2, 3, and quadrant 4. Now, if they're talking about -2 and -4, you should know that your negative quadrants are all in quadrant 3, or your negative axes, if I can put it that way. So negative x as well as negative y for your set of axes will fall in the third quadrant. So your answer for this one over here will obviously be C, because -2 and -4 will fall in quadrant 3. Okay. Now, if we carry on to question 1.2, you'll see that they ask you the value of the following. So you'll see that there's 2 square roots, okay, with perfect squares inside of it, and then you have a big square root there, okay. Now, the golden rule here is that you need to solve everything from inside out. It's the same with brackets. You start with the inner brackets and then you solve them all the way outwards, okay. So with that, I'm going to do a little calculation at the bottom here, and then we'll solve, and then we'll see which one matches up with this question. So they say that the value, so they give you this huge square root here, and then they give you inside of it square root of 36, and then they also give you minus the square root of 4. So at this stage, because you need to solve from the inside out, you obviously need to leave the big square root as is. You'll then say the square root of 36, which is 6, minus the square root of 4, which is 2. Okay? Now, in this case, you cannot work with 2 terms or more than 2 terms in a square root. So you have to go and solve this value over here. So we'll have then the square root, obviously, and you'll say 6 minus 2, which will give me 4. The square root of 4 is 2. So on your multiple choice option over here, C will be the option that you'll be choosing for this question over here, as your answer is 2 at the end of the day. Okay. So let's move on to the next multiple choice question. So our next multiple choice question looks as follows. So over here, they give you the -2x squared, and then outside the closed bracket, we've got a cube as an exponent. They are asking you which one of the options over here is equivalent to what they've given to you there. Okay, so which one of these simplified options? Remember, this has not been simplified as yet. So we need to go and simplify to see which one of the options here is exactly the same as what they've given to you there. Okay, so we've got then the following. So we've got negative 2x squared, close your bracket, 3. That's what they gave to you. Okay, now remember that when I teach you, or what I've taught you in class, is that if you have an odd exponent on the outside and you've got a negative on the inside, it will always stay a negative. Your answer will always be negative. Okay. Now remember, you are dealing with law number 4 over here, because you've got a coefficient as well as you've got the variable with its exponent. So we need to go and multiply all of this into the bracket with those exponents that are not there or not visible. Okay, so remember, odd exponent always stays negative, because you're going to say negative times negative is positive, positive times another negative is negative. Okay, so at the end of the day, we've got the negative. Remember, if there's nothing there, there's always a 1. So 1 times 3 gives me 3 at the top. 2 times 3 gives me 6. Okay, so remember, you need to solve this as well. So you've got the negative there. Then the exponent tells you how many times the base has to be multiplied by itself. So it will be 3 times in this case. So you're going to say 2 times 2 times another 2, and that should give you 8. And then obviously you add the x to the power of 6. So if you look at all the options over here, you would pick up that C is the option that you are looking for currently. Okay, so your answer will be C. Okay, moving on to the next question. Question 1.4 over here. They ask you which one of the following lines is not parallel to the straight line with an equation y equals 4x minus 6. So which one of the lines is not parallel to this equation? Okay, so if you look at the options, the line that will not be parallel is obviously the one that is put equal to 0. Okay, so when you go and calculate it or try and work it out, the line that's not parallel would be exactly what is given to you here. You'll just say y plus 4x minus 6, and you put it equal to 0. And anything that is equal to 0 with regards to this equation will not be parallel to this line over here. Okay. Then question 1.5. Question 1.5, they give you a fraction. So say the number, and they give you a third times a half divided by a third is equal to. So you basically need to take all of this and go and calculate it to see what you get over here and which one would be applicable in this case. Okay, so if you look at it this way, if we've got 1 over 3 multiplied by 1 over 2 divided by 1 over 3, obviously you'll have to apply your tip and times method here. So we'll have then 1 over 3 multiplied by a half times 3 over 1. Remember that the sign will flip over the fraction that is after it. Okay, and then the division sign will change to a multiplication sign. Now, because it's all multiplication, you can now go and cross cancel. So we can cross cancel the 3 as well as the 3, the 1 and the 1. So all that you'll be left with is basically a half in this regard. Okay, so your answer that you're going to choose here would be A for this question. Okay. Then for question 1.6, question 1.6, they ask you the following. So it states here, if A is equal to 2 and B is equal to 3, then the answer of B to the power of A minus 1 plus A to the power of B plus 1 is, and then you need to choose the applicable answer over here. So we now need to take 2 and 3 and go and substitute them wherever it is applicable, and then we'll work from there onwards. Okay, so the expression that they give to us would then obviously be B to the power of A minus 1, okay, plus A to the power of B plus 1. They told us that A is equal to 2, and they also told us that B is equal to 3. So B is 3 in this case. A is 2 minus 1 plus, they told me that A is 2, B is 3 plus 1 in this regard. Okay, so now I need to sit with the following. So 2 minus 1 in this regard would give me 1. And then the other thing here is that 3 plus 1 will be 4. Okay, so when I work with this out, I'll get 3, or rather 1 times 1 is 1, which will leave you with a 3, okay, plus 2 to the power of 4. So 2 to the power of 4 would be as follows. You say 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times another 2 is 16. And that will then give you a final answer of 19. So if you look at it this way, the applicable answer to choose in this case would be A for 19, because your answer is 19. So guys, basic substitution and calculation of your exponents as well as an expression in this regard. Okay. Then, if we move further along, you will get the following question, question 1.7. It asks you, the 20th term in the sequence is 5, 11, 17. Okay. So they ask you, what is the 20th term? So they start with 5, 11, and 17. And now they want to know what is the 20th term in this regard. Okay. So you need to understand that you have to find the difference of the values that are already given to you in the number sequence here. And then you need to go and calculate what the 20th term would be. So they gave us 5. So they said to us it's going to be 5. And they said that it's going to be 11 and 17. Now to find the difference, you need to understand that this is the first term, second term, third term in your actual sequence, okay? Position 1, 2, and position 3. So what we need to do is we need to find the difference between the two. So the easiest way to do it is this way. So we say 11 minus 5, and that gives me 6. Okay? Then we say 17 minus 11, and that also gives me 6. So this number sequence here has a constant difference of 6. Okay? Now, we need to go and find the value of C, because the constant difference is always B, your position is always N, and then we need to go and calculate for C. Now the way you do that is as follows. So we're going to use the first position and the first position's answer or value. Now the value needs to be put where Tn is. The difference is 6, so we substitute the 1, and then obviously plus C, because we are looking for C in this regard. Okay, so 5 we leave there. 6 times 1 is 6 plus C. I'm just going to continue over here. Now you need to carry the 6 over to the other side because you want C on its own. So you're going to then say C is equal to 5 minus 6. Remember, when you carry it over, it changes to a negative. So 5 minus 6 gives me negative 1. So therefore, if I have to go and rewrite the formula that I need to use, it will be Tn equals 6n minus 1. Now you can test it to check if everything works out. So you can say 6 times 2 is 12, minus 1 gives me 11. Okay, you can do the same for the third one. You can say 6 times 3 is 18, minus 1 gives me 17. So what they wanted us to calculate again was the 20th term, as you can see over here. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to calculate it at the top here. So you're going to say T20, because you're calculating the 20th term, is equal to 6 times 20 minus 1. Now 6 times 2 is 12, add the 0, minus 1. So therefore the answer for the for the 20th term would be 119. So your option that you'll choose for 1.7 over here would be option B, 119. And there we go, all done and dusted for 1.7. Okay, let's move on to question 1.8. So question 1.8 asks you the following. So they want to know what is 2/5 of 60. And then obviously they give you all the options at the bottom here. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to do the following. You need to say 2/5 times 60, because of means multiplying the fraction by the whole number. What you can then do is you can take the fraction, leave it as is, multiply the 60 and put the 60 over 1. Okay, what you can then do is check how many times, so you can cross cancel. So see how many times 5 goes into 60. Okay, and we already know 5 goes into itself once, and it goes into 60 12 times. So basically what you'll have here then is 2/1 multiplied by 12/1. So therefore, at the end of the day, if you multiply the 2 and the 12 with one another, you'll get 24. 1 times 1 is 1, and anything written over 1 is equal to a whole number. So your final answer there would then be 24, which is option D in this case. Okay. Okay, guys, we're moving on to the last two questions for question 1 for this paper. So for 1.9, they ask you the following. They say, what is the correct pair of values of x in the following equation that's given to you? So if you know your factorization and you pick it up quickly, you know that they factorized this question already. And the only thing that you need to do is you need to go and say x minus 3 equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0, and then you need to carry the 3 over as well as the 2 over. So what do I mean by that? So they basically did the factorization already for you. So you just need to say x minus 3. I'll just write down the question for you. X plus 2. This is equal to 0. Now they've done the factorization already for you in terms of an equation. So what you need to do then is say, therefore, x minus 3 is equal to 0, or x plus 2 is equal to 0. Now obviously you need to carry this over, and as soon as you carry them over, the signs will change to the inverse. Okay, so therefore x is equal to positive 3 as well as x is equal to negative 2. And your option that you are choosing for this in this paper would then be option number B in this case. Okay. You must be very wary of what they ask you, and you must understand what they are requesting of you. Okay, because some of you will just jump in, answer the questions, and then they ask totally something different than what you are assuming. So never assume. Make sure that you know what they're asking you. Okay. Question 1.10. So they give you the expression over here, and I ask you, what is this expression equal to? So if we bring it a bit closer, you'll see there. Now they're asking you, this expression over here, what is it equal to in your options? So when I go and write it down for you, you'll see that your expression looks as follows. It's x squared. Outside there's a cube, open bracket, x cubed, and then a square. What you need to understand is that there's a multiplication sign in between, okay, these brackets. So first thing that you need to do is multiply the expression on the inside to ensure that everything is simplified. So at the end of the day, you'll say 2 times 3, you'll have x to the power of 6 multiplied the power of 6. You've applied law number 3 over here because it's raising up. Over here, you are now applying law number 1 for exponents, which is if base exponents, okay? So bases are the same. So we add exponents. So 6 plus 6 is 12. So your final answer is x to the power of 12 in this case. And the option that you will choose here would be option B, which is x to the power of 12. Okay, so we've sorted the multiple choice questions, and we will now be moving on to the second part, or the second question for the paper. So the next section of this paper requires you to simplify the following without the use of a calculator, and it strictly tells you that you need to show all the steps. Okay, so it says for 2.1 we've got the cube root of 1 and 1 over 125. So the question that's given to us is cube root of 1 over 125. Okay, if you are given a fraction in a cube root or a square root, you need to make sure that before you start anything is that the root actually covers the whole fraction, which in this case it does. Okay, and then you need to understand that you need to cube root the numerator as well as the denominator in this case. Okay, so the cube root of 1 stays 1, and then the cube root of 125 is 5. So your final answer is 1 over 5. So you get 1 mark for the 1 and 1 mark for the 5 in this question. Okay, so the next question, which is question 2.2, in the paper that we need to simplify, they give you the following. So they say 5 over 10 divided by 25 over 40 multiplied by 15 over 2. Okay, so first things first, your signs, you need to know how to apply your signs. Remember, tip and times. So we're going to tip and times the 25 over 40. Okay, so first things first, tip and times. So we've got 5 over 10 multiplied by 40 over 25 multiplied by 15 over 2. Okay, now the fun starts. Now you need to cross cancel. Okay, as much as you can. And remember, you can cross cancel as far as you can, as long as you do it diagonally from top to bottom or from bottom to top. So 5 goes into itself once, and it goes into 25 5 times. Okay, then 10 goes into itself once and into 40 4 times. Now remember, you already have an answer here, but you can use this 5 to simplify this 15 as well. So 5 goes into itself once and into 15 3 times. Okay, so now we are sitting with the following. So you'll have 1 over 1, which is the first one. You'll have 4 over 1, which is the second fraction. And then you'll have 3 over 2. So 1 times 4 is 4. 4 times 3, leaves me with an answer of 12. 1 times 1 is 1, times 2 gives me 2. 2 is divided into 12 6 times. So your final answer is 6 in this case. You get 3 marks for this. So 1 mark obviously for tipping and timesing, 1 mark for simplifying, and 1 mark for your answer. Okay, sorted. Let's move on to question 2.3. So question 2.3 is exactly the same, but they give you decimal values to work with. So they give you negative, what do we have there? Negative 43, comma 25, and they want you to add 21,32 to that. Okay, that should not be easy. It should not be difficult, if I can put it that way, as you can do it with the vertical column method from top to bottom, or you can simply just do this. And I know most of you, because you are using calculators, you just punch it into your calculator and you'll get an answer as follows. So you'll get negative 21,93. So we'll give 1 mark for the negative and 1 mark for the actual answer over there. Okay. Okay, we're still stuck on question 2, but now we'll move on to some solving of unknown values. So basically solving variables. Okay, so your first question in this case, they will ask you to solve the following. So 3 times 2 to the power of x equals 96. There we go. Okay, so to solve this, you need to do the following. Remember, you only want to work with a value that has the variable as an exponent in this regard. Okay, so you want to get rid of the 3. And the only way to get rid of the 3 is to divide by 3. But because it's an equation, whatever you do on the one side, you need to apply to the other side. So divide by 3, divide by 3. This will cancel out. We'll be left with 2 to the power of x. And then 3 goes into 96 32 times. Now you need to go take 32 and get the prime factors for it. You can use your calculator like I've taught you the whole year now already, and it's also in the videos that I've done. And there's also a short on it on the channel. Okay, so you put 32 into your calculator, press equal, shift, and then fact to factorize it, and that will then give you an answer of 2 to the power of 5. Now, because your bases are the same, your bases will fall away, and therefore you'll get a final answer of x, which is equal to 5 in this regard. Okay, so you'll get 1 mark for that step, 1 mark for prime factorization, and then 1 mark for your answer at the end of the day. Okay, right, let's move on to our next question. So our next question asks us to simplify the following equation. So it will be x plus 7 equals 3x minus 15. Now you put all the x's to one side and all the constant values to the other side. In this case, I'm going to keep 3x here, and I'll bring the x over, which makes a change to a negative. I'll have the 15 and the 7 over here. Remember, the 7 is already positive. The 15 now changes to positive. So I'll have this side 3 x minus x, which gives me 2x. 7 plus 15, which should give me 22. I'm looking for the value of x, so I'm dividing both sides by 2. So therefore, x is equal to 11 in this case. Okay, so you get 1 mark for the answer, 1 mark for throwing everything to the side that they belong to, and 1 mark for simplification in this case. Okay, All right, let's go to the final question of question 2 for simplification. So for this question, we've got the following. So we've got 3 open bracket x minus, oh, look at that minus 1 minus 24 is equal to 2 open bracket negative 1 minus x. Okay, so you've got quite a huge sum here. So basically what has to happen, remember that the question over here and over here is split by the negative. So the 24 is a term on its own. It doesn't belong to the bracket. So you're just going to carry it down. The only thing that belongs to the brackets are basically the 3 over here and the 2 that belongs to this bracket. So we now need to distribute the 3 into that bracket as well as the 2 into that bracket. Okay, so 3 times x will give me 3x. Positive negative is negative. 3 times 1 is 3. Carry the negative 24 down. Then you'll have a positive and a negative, which is a negative. 2 times 1 is 2. Positive negative is negative. 2 times x is 2x. Now you've got a basic equation that you just need to go and put all the like terms together and carry on with the simplification. So I'm going to leave 3x over here. I'm going to bring the 2x over, which becomes positive 2x. Okay, equals, so negative 2. Take the 3 over, it becomes positive 3. And then take the 24 over, which makes it positive 24 in this case. So 3 times 2 gives me 5x. 3 plus 24 gives me 27. 27 minus 2 gives me 25. Now I'm looking for x, which means I need to divide both sides by 5. So therefore, at the end of the day, x is then equal to 5. So where would I get marks here? I'll get marks for distribution both sides. I'll get 1 mark for putting everything where they're supposed to be, and obviously 1 mark for my answer. Okay. Okay, guys, that is it for question number 2. We are going to move on now to question number 3. So question number 3 is also a simplification question, and it requires you to simplify the following questions in this regard. Okay, so first question to be simplified. So 2a minus b, and then we've got 3a minus 4b. Okay, so what we're going to do is we want to get rid of the brackets. So we need to simplify it accordingly. Okay, so you now need to be very careful in this regard, because you're going to have to multiply. So you're basically foiling, for those of you that can remember foiling. So first, outer, inner, lasts. First, outer, inner, last. Okay, that's what you have to follow. So 2 times 3 gives me 6. A times a gives me a squared. Then first and the last. So first, outer, inner, last. Okay, so 2 times 4. But what you need to remember is that the 4 is a negative. So a positive times a negative gives me negative. 2 times 4 gives me 8. A times b gives me ab. Okay, so now you're done with the first 2. Now we go to the inner. So negative and a positive is a negative. Then there's nothing written in front of b, but there's always a 1. So 1 times 3 gives me 3. B times A gives me AB. Then for last, negative and a negative is positive. Then there's always a 1, so 1 times 4 is 4. B times B is B squared. Now, we need to go and look for the terms that look the same. These two terms look exactly the same. So you get the following answer. You'll have 6a squared. Negative 8 minus 3 is negative 11ab plus 4b squared. So where do I get marks? Because this is a 4-pointer. Okay, so you get 1 for foiling properly, and then you'll get 1 mark for each term in your answer in this case. Okay. Okay, moving on to the next question. So the next question is a bit tricky if you do not know what to do as your first step. So here's the question. So we'll start off with 8 x cubed y4, there we go, minus 4 x power 5 y cubed over 2x squared y squared. Okay, so the very first thing that you have to pick up is that you only have one term as a denominator, and at the top you've got a negative operation, which means that the very first step that you need to apply here is to split the fraction. Okay, so I need to have 8x cubed y to the power 4 over 2x squared y squared minus 4x to the power 5 y cubed 2x squared y squared. So I need to split the fraction because I get a mark for that. Okay, if you don't split the fraction, you're going to make your life very difficult moving further on with this question. Okay, you get 1 mark for that. Then what you need to do now is you need to apply law number 2 in this case. Okay, so 8 divided by 2. So 2 goes into itself once, it goes into 8 4 times. So you've got 4 over 1 in this case so far. 3 minus 2 is 1, and most of them are at the top. Then 4 minus 2 is 2, and most of them are at the top. Then 2 goes into itself once, into 4 twice. So you've got 2 over 1 in this case so far. 5 minus 2 is 3. Most of them are at the top. 3 minus 2 is 1, and that 1 is at the top. Anything over 1 is written as a whole number. So your final answer should be 4x y squared minus 2x cubed y in this regard. They are not like terms because the x's don't look the same and the y's do not look the same. So please don't make that mistake. Okay, let's move on to our next question for simplification of fractions. So the next one we've got looks as follows. It's x to the power 4, open bracket, x squared, and cubed over there. And that is all over x minus the exponent of 3, and then a negative 2 at the top there. So this comes in with that I taught the classes, as well as I did a video on it, where you need to change negative exponents to positive exponents. Okay, if you are not able to change the sign when you are multiplying, because you first need to apply the laws of exponents. Okay, so in this case, let's look at it quickly. So I'm going to try and multiply them and then change the sign. If I cannot change the sign, then I will have to carry them up or down, depending on what has to happen. So in this case, I've got x to the power 4 multiplied, because the bracket means multiplication. I need to multiply these two with one another. So 2 times 3 is 6 over. Then I've got negative and a negative, gives me a positive, and then 3 times 2 is 6. So this is what I'm sitting with at this stage. Okay. Now, if you do the short way, you can just cancel these two out and you'll have x to the power 4. If you want to do the long way, you can then apply law number 1. Bases are the same, add exponents, and then apply law number 2. I'm going to apply law number 2 immediately. So 6 minus 6 gives me 0. And then I'm left with x to the power of 4. Okay. X to the power 4. And that is your final answer. You'll get marked as follows. So I just want to see how many marks this one was. 3. So you get 1, 2, 3 marks in this case. Okay. Okay, our final question with regards to simplification of fractions in this paper. So I've got the following. I've got 5x open bracket cubed times open bracket 2xy squared and then squared there over 20x to the power of 5. Okay. Now, we need to get rid of the brackets, obviously, first of all. And then once we are rid of the brackets, we then need to go and simplify as far as possible. So what has to happen is the following. You need to apply law number 3 over here, as well as over here. So what will have to happen then is you need to say 1 times 3, which will then give you 5 to the power of 3, 1 times 3, which is x to the power of 3. With that, you'll then have 2 squared, x squared, y to the power of 4. And then obviously the 20x to the power of 5 at the bottom. Then with that, you'll say 5 times 5 times 5, which is 125, x cubed, times 2 times 2, which is 4, x to the power of 2, y to the power of 4, over 20 x to the power of 5. Now, what you need to keep in mind is at the top here in the numerator position that you need to multiply these coefficients with one another, as well as you need to apply law number 1 with regards to adding the exponents. So if I move over to the other side, we'll get the following. So 125 times 4 gives me 500. X and x, which has 3 and 2, would be x to the power of 5 there. And then you'll have y to the power of 4. Just move the board over a bit. Then at the bottom, you'll have 20 x to the power of 5. And what you will need to do then is to simplify the actual fraction, applying law number 2. So 20 goes into 500, 25 times. 5 minus 5 is 0. And then all you have left then is y to the power of 4 in this regard. Okay. And that is it for that final question. So you'll get 4 marks over here, 1 for your answer, 1 for simplification, obviously both the simplifications, as well as the step over there. So there's 4 marks. Okay. Now we will move on to the second part of question 3, which is factorization. I'll give you guys a break just to go through everything that you have so far, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, we are back with the second part of question 3, which is factorization. And our first question looks as follows. So they give us x squared minus x minus 56 in this regard. So because there are three terms here, you need to know that you need to apply trinomial factorization. Okay, so with this, we need to look for factors that will give us -1, but when we multiply them together, they should give us -56. So two brackets, obviously. First thing that you need to look at, you'll see that there's a negative at the back here, which means my bracket should have a positive and a negative. Okay, positive, negative. We've got x and x. And now we need to go and look for the factors of 56. So if you look for the factors of 56, you will pick up that 8 and 7. So 7 times 8 in this regard will be the suitable factors that we are going to use. We are looking for a negative value, which means that our biggest factor will go into the negative bracket and our lowest one will go into the positive bracket. So 7 and 8 in this regard, and there you have factorized the trinomial fully. You get 1 mark for each of the brackets in this case. Okay. Then our next question that needs to be factorized looks as follows. So it will be 18 x squared minus 200. Okay, so all of you will be wondering what is going on now. So what I'll do first is I will take out a highest common factor. In this case, the highest common factor that can go into both these terms would be 2. I will then have 9x squared left there, and I'll then have negative 100 left as that term in the bracket over there. Now, what has to happen next is that we need to go and factorize this bracket. Okay? So if we factorize this bracket, we are going to do it accordingly. So both these numbers over here are perfect squares because when you square root them, you will get a whole number. Okay, so perfect square of 9 would be 3 in each bracket. You split up the x, and because you are working with perfect squares and there's a negative here, each bracket will have a positive as well as a negative. So positive in the first bracket, negative in the second, or you could swap them around, negative first and then positive. And then the square root of 100 is 10. And there we go. All sorted, and you have factorized that fully. So you get 1 mark for the highest common factor and 1 mark for each bracket that you have factorized. Okay. Moving on to our final factorization question. This one could be a bit tricky if you do not know how to do sign changes. Okay. So we've got TA, let's see, minus TC minus 2A plus 2C. Okay, so first things first is to group the terms together. Okay, so you always group the first two and you always group the second two. So this is how it should look. So we should say TA minus TC, and then we put a positive on the outside, always a positive, and then negative 2A plus 2C in that bracket over there. Okay. Now we will be required to do a sign change. Okay. So, and the reason why I say do a sign change is because when you take out your common factors, your brackets should look exactly the same. So look here, this is what I'm trying to tell you. So over here, we're going to take out a T. So what's left in the bracket is a minus c in this case, okay? Plus, you take out a 2, you'll have negative a plus c, which means that your brackets over here do not look the same. So now we need to apply sign change only from the second term onwards. And you only do that by multiplying by a negative. Okay? So at the bottom here, you'll then have t, a minus c, positive negative is negative 2, negative negative is a positive a, positive negative is negative c. And now both your brackets look exactly the same. So the only thing that you have left to do now is to go and write a common bracket and then to put the two common factors in a bracket. So you then have a minus c, which is your common bracket, and then you'll have t minus 2. And there you go, sorted. Your group factorization is complete. So where you'll get marks over here is basically for sign changing, as well as for each bracket in your answer in this case. Okay, sorted. Let's move on to question 4. So question 4 in this paper focuses on your number sequences. Okay. So your number sequence that they want you to work with is the following. So they say write down the next 2 in the given sequence. So the sequence that they give you is negative 1, 1, and 3. That's what they give to you. They tell you to write down the next 2 terms. So what you need to pick up is the difference between the numbers in the sequence. So from negative 1 to 1, you need to add 2. From 1 to 3, you need to add 2. So it has a common, or not a common, a constant difference of plus 2. So the next number in the sequence will then be 5, and the next one will be 7 if you add 2 every single time. And you'll get 2 marks for that, 1 for each of the numbers that are given to you. Okay. Then for 4.2, they ask you to describe the pattern in question 4.1 in your own words. To describe it in your own words, you always use the following. Start at negative 1, which is what you started at, because you started at negative 1, and add 2 to get the next term in sequence. Start at negative 1 and add 2 to get the next term in the sequence. That is how you answer the 4.2, where they ask you to write it in your own words. You get 2 marks for that. Okay. Then 4.3, they ask you to write down the general term for the sequence in the form of Tn equals Bn plus C. So what they're basically asking you, the general term, is they're asking you to write down the general rule. Okay. So your teacher should have taught you the general rule format, which is the following that is being displayed on the board. Okay, we have already found the difference, which is plus 2. Okay, so B is your constant difference. C, you need to go and calculate using your first position and the first position's value. Okay, so this is position 1, position 2, position 3. So we need to find C. So for the first position, the value of the first position is always written by Tn. Then B is 2 because we calculated it. Then position 1, we substitute in there, plus C. So negative 1 is equal to 2 times 1, which is 2 plus C. Carry the 2 over, which gives you negative 1 minus 2 equals positive C. So negative 1 minus 2 is therefore equal to negative 3. So C is equal to negative 3. So therefore, Tn is equal to 2n minus 3. And there's your general rule. You get 2 marks, one for 2n, one for -3 in this regard. Okay. Then, using this rule, they ask you which term of the sequence is equal to 37. And this is a question that I also like to ask. Which term in the sequence is equal to 37? So they're asking you basically, in what position will 37 fall in that sequence? So we use this rule, and where Tn is, because 37 is an output value, we say 37 equals 2n minus 3. Carry 3 over, which will make it 37 plus 3 equals 2n. 37 plus 3 gives me 40 equals 2n. Divide both sides by 2. Therefore, n is equal to 20. So 37 will fall in position 20 in this regard. And there you go, 7 marks. That's all that they will ask you with regards to patterns. So they'll give you one there and one for substitution there, and it's sorted. Okay, guys, we'll be moving on to the last question, which is question number 5 for this paper. And question number 5 looks as follows. I'm going to display it here. It's to do with graphs. I hope that all of you can see what is going on here on the screen. And they ask you for 5.1 the following. Match each of the graphs in column A, so these graphs, with the correct equation in column B. Okay, correct equation in column B. So, 5.1.1, which is this one over here. You'll see that it runs from bottom left to top right. So it's an increasing graph. Okay, it goes straight through the origin. So it's got no tail attached to it. Okay, so there's no y-intercept, if I can put it that way. And because it's increasing, your answer for the first one would be E, which is y is equal to x. If it was decreasing, then it would be C. But in this case, it is E. Okay. Then, for your second graph, it is a decreasing graph. And so which means that your gradient should be negative, and it cuts through 2 on the positive side, not the negative side. So it's a decreasing graph and it cuts through 2. So for 5.1.2, the answer is B. So it would be this one. Y equals negative x over 2 plus 2. Okay. Your third graph is an increasing graph. Okay. And because it's an increasing graph, you must understand as well that it cuts through the negative as well as a positive axis. Okay. Which in this case, because it's positive, the gradient will be positive, but it cuts through a negative y-axis. So the answer for 5.1.3 will be A, which is x over 2 minus 2 in this case. Okay. Then for 5.1.4, it cuts through the origin, similar to what happens in 5.1.1. And because it cuts through the origin and doesn't have a y-intercept, your answer for 5.1.4 will be C. Y equals negative x. Okay. Let's carry on to the final part of question 5. And they ask the following. So for 5.2, they say, choose the correct word to make the following statement true. Write only the word as your answer. Okay. So they tell you that the graph, and remember it's 2 marks. Okay. They tell you that the graph of y equals 2 is parallel or perpendicular to the x-axis. It cannot be perpendicular because the graph to y equals 2 will always be parallel to the graph of y equals 2. Okay, so parallel is the answer. Then 5.3, they ask you, guys, just hold on a moment. Sorry about that. I was just interrupted. So for 5.3, they say determine the equation of the line that is parallel to y equals negative 5x plus 2 and passes through points 8 and 3. So you now need to go and determine the equation of the line that is parallel to this. So what they give you there is the following. So they tell you y is equal to negative 5x plus 2. And they also tell you that it goes through points 8 and 3 in this regard. So what you need to pick up first is that your gradient is negative 5. Okay? So the line that runs parallel to that, okay, must be as follows. But they also give you the coordinates of the line that runs parallel to that equation. So what we're going to do is we are going to calculate using the coordinates. Calculate the line that runs parallel, meaning they run side by side with this equation. So the way they're going to do that is as follows. Remember that you need to work with formula y equals mx plus c in this case. And then we use this formula to go and calculate the what do you call it? The following. So we need to go and calculate c because c will determine what that equation of the line is that runs parallel with this. So when we work with y equals mx plus c, y is equal to 3, so we put 3 in. We've determined that the gradient is negative 5 and the x value is 8 plus c. So we've got 3, negative and a positive is negative. 5 times 8 is 40 plus c. Carry the 40 over, so you get 3 plus 4, which is equal to c. So therefore, c is equal to 43. So the line that runs parallel with this equation would be y equals negative 5x plus 43 in this case. Okay, so what did I do? Let me recap. So I've determined that the gradient is negative 5. I then write down the basic formula, which is y equals mx plus c. The goal is to find the value of c, which is your y-intercept, to ensure that you find the line or the equation that will run parallel to the current equation that you have in this case. Okay, so y equals mx plus c. I take the coordinate that's given to me. I go and substitute for y. Gradient obviously is negative 5. Substitute for x. Calculate and find the value for c. Then c would then become my new y-intercept for the second equation. And then this equation over here, because you use negative 5 as a gradient, this equation over here will run parallel to this equation on the graph. So if you have to draw it, the two lines will run parallel like that next to one another. Okay, in this case, they won't be increasing, but they will run decreasing because your gradients are negative in this case. Okay. Okay, let's carry on to the next question. So, our second last question here asks, calculate the gradient of a line with points A, which is negative 5 and 8, as well as B, which is 3 and 24. So, they tell me that A is negative 5 and 28. Negative 5 and 8, not 28. Sorry about that. And then B is 3 and 24 in this case. Okay. So, first thing that needs to go through your mind, gradient formula. And that would be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 in this case. Okay. First thing that you need to go and do is you need to go and number which ones you want to go where. So which ones must be part of the first set of coordinates and which coordinates must be part of the second set of coordinates that you are looking at. Okay. So I'm going to name these ones x1 and y1. That's my first set. x2 and y2. That is my second set. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to say 24, which is y2, minus 8 over then 3 minus, remember you need to bring the negative down. And then x1 is negative, so you need to put it in a bracket. Otherwise, if you don't do sign change, you are messing up your question. So 24 minus 8 should give me a total of 16. Negative and a negative should give me a positive. So I have 3 plus 5. So I'll have 16 over 8. Therefore, my final answer or my gradient is then equal to 2. And they have solved the gradient. So you get 1 mark for your formula because we don't give it to you. 1 mark for substitution, 1 mark for simplification, 1 mark for your answer in that case. Okay. Then, last question. And this is a very important question. They say, sketch the graph of x equals 5 and give the gradient of this line. So there's a two-part question. Sketch and then give me the gradient of the line. So x is equal to 5. So when I go draw my Cartesian plane, I'm not going to put all the nitty-gritty stuff in now. You know that this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis. Origin is there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., etc. If x is equal to 5, it means that the line runs from top to bottom, like this. So x is equal to 5. Okay? And if x is equal to 5, then your gradient is always undefined. Undefined. Okay. So x is equal to 5 from top to bottom. X is equal to negative 2 from top to bottom. Doesn't matter. Anything which x is equal to something, top to bottom, right through that, what do you call it? Right through that unit that you are using. Okay. If they tell you, for instance, y is equal to negative 2. So 1, 2, y is equal to negative 2. It will be a straight line like that. Y is equal to negative 2. Okay. So if y is equal to negative 2, your gradient is 0. Anything with y equal to something, gradient 0. Anything with x equal to something, gradient always undefined. Make sure you know that. You could get caught out in your paper. Okay. Okay, guys, that is the paper discussion for today. Thank you for joining in. I hope I've covered as much as possible to try and enrich your minds as well as to help you study. Thank you once again for growing the channel, helping us to get to a lot of people that need the extra tutoring or the extra work that we do put in for you. Like I said again, I hope that this is actually helping you a lot and that your exams are going well. So enjoy the rest of your day. Hope that you study hard. If there are any questions, pop it in the chat and then I'll attend to it as soon as possible. Once again, thank you for everything. Until we meet next time, stay tuned to see when we will do another paper discussion. Until then, have a good day. Thank you.